What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Laugh to Learn podcast, your weekly source for a comedic spin on all the goings on in the world. My name is, of course, Jacob Paveo, and I come to you from the Great White North every Tuesday evening Eastern Standard Time. Oh, that's not even true. Every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got to get used to the new intro. Fresh for download to listen to at work, for your drive home, the entire world around on Wednesday afternoon/evening. By the way, the Great White North is literally white again. Not in a racist way, but in a snowing way, because the snow has arrived, and there's a whole lot of it. Kind of nice, to be honest with you, to be working from home. I was talking with a bunch of people from work about that this week, how they all live far south from me, so they don't have snow. That's the way Canadian geography works. But here we have a fair bit of it, and I don't have to worry about warming my car up in the morning. I just have to worry about warming up my coffee in the morning, and it is a fucking nice thing. So one thing that I'm definitely not going to complain about is working from home during the winter. Anyways, if it's your first time here with me on the podcast, welcome, of course. Thank you for checking it out. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you happen to like it. We are available on all of your favorite podcasting apps, because literally we are on every single podcasting app, as well as all home voice-controlled devices from Amazon, Google, Apple, and that's the only ones I know about. But check it out if there's more. Maybe try the one you have at home. Hopefully it, too, will be working. I hope, if it's your first time here, that you enjoy your time here enough to return again once more next week, and maybe tell your friends about it. As a side note, a great way to tell your friends about it is to take a screenshot of the podcast playing on your cell phone, if you happen to be listening on your cell phone, and then just post that screenshot on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, of course, Twitter, as of today. Like, literally this morning, Twitter now has stories. I forget what they're calling them. It was a very weird name, and I'm going to pull up my phone right now to see. They're calling it... what are they calling it? It's like Fleet. 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 That is a horrible name, Twitter. Okay? Why can't you just call it a story? Probably because Instagram and Facebook are owned by the same company, and they most likely have that under lock and key under some legal action. However, you could definitely come up with a better name than Twitter Fleet. But either way, you can post a screenshot of the podcast playing there. Don't forget to tag myself in the podcast. All of this stuff for my social media can be found in the description to this podcast, but I am available essentially everywhere. People are telling me now I need to create a Facebook page. I guess I probably should. The only reason I didn't at the beginning is because, like, who uses Facebook anymore? Apparently a lot of people do, so I guess I got to get on that. Either way, don't forget that podcast merch can now be picked up by anyone in the United States and Canada. Shipping, taxes, everything is included in those prices you see online at laughtolearnpodcast.com/store. The link, of course, is included in this podcast. I just got my hat in the mail yesterday, my Laugh to Learn hat. So sick. So cool, so fresh. I got the green one. My brother got the blue one. They are sick. It's actually stitched individually. It's not like a press. So the writing for the podcast name and everything is all stitched in there like a legitimate looking hat. It's not just a patch. So that is absolutely sick. So if you're interested in the hat, the t-shirt, the long sleeve shirt, the sweater, the mug, or the stickers, that's all the stuff that's available in a wide range of sizes. You can find all of that stuff online. If there is something specific you want to know, you can always reach out to me. I have been told that people have tried to use the contact button on the store, and I didn't get the emails, so not sure what's been going on there, but feel free to keep using it. because I've got some, because I've tested it and it's worked. So, reach out to me. You can always, of course, reach out to me on Instagram using DMs. My DMs are, of course, available and open to anyone. Twitter, of course, you can reach out to me there. Just send a tweet at me or send a DM. There's tons of ways you guys can get in touch with me if need be. All of that information, again, for social media is included in the description, as well as the link to the store. This week is all about, I spelt the word big wrong, so I'm going to start that sentence over again because I said bug. This week is all about the big news of the coming COVID-19 vaccines. And I put an S on the end because there are two big ones that we're going to talk about, two main competitors. We're hearing a whole lot about their effectiveness, how they'll be distributed, and when life will finally be normalized once again. But really, we want to know what's true, what's just political hype and excitement and trying to get people through what we're going through right now with another major spike. What does it all mean? Well, folks, it is time to find out because, as you already know, this is the Laugh to Learn podcast. Hey, check it out! It's the Laugh to Learn podcast! We are going to start this week with Justin Trudeau, Canadian Prime Minister's message to the citizens, and this is by a story, I should say, by Rachel Gilmore of Global News. She writes, quote, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that Canadians will only need to hold on for, quote, a few more months, end quote, as he says the country will begin to see the other side of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic in the spring. However, he warns that Canada is in for a, quote, tough winter, end quote. People just need to hang on. It's not forever. It's only for a few more months, Trudeau said in an interview for the Mike Farewell Show, which aired on 570 News Kitchener on Tuesday. Quote, what we need to do to keep our loved ones safe and mostly as well keep our frontline workers from being overwhelmed and our hospital rooms from being fulfilled. Trudeau continued to warn that as things stand now, Canada's COVID-19 case counts are heading in the wrong direction. Quote, I think what we're seeing now is a rise in cases that is extremely dramatic and alarming and exactly the wrong trend line. So if we can reverse that and start to flatten it massively, that would be great, end quote. And that is Justin Trudeau. Further to that, Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Theresa Tam echoed the comments about Canada's coronavirus trends on Friday. Speaking to reporters, she warned that Canada could see daily case counts of more than 10,000 by early December if the country continues on the current pace. Quote, you can only imagine if we get to that level that the pressure on the healthcare system would be huge. We've got to stop the acceleration so we don't see that in the beginning of December. That's only a few weeks away, end quote. Of course, 10,000 cases at the beginning of the month is the national projected numbers. Here in Ontario, they're projecting to reach about 6,000 cases a month by halfway through December. Further to that, Trudeau then said at a later Friday interview that the 10,000 number becomes a reality, or rather, if the 10,000 number becomes a reality, Canadians can be expected to get hit by a whole bunch of different restrictions at Christmas. If we manage to lessen that, there might be fewer restrictions. I don't think anyone can imagine a Christmas that is going to be exactly the same as it was in 2019. I think a lot of people are focused on trying to do the right thing between now and then so we can have as good a Christmas as possible, but really we're in for a tough winter. I'm going to take a pause right here before continuing with the story, because I just want to linger on this point for a minute. I've been going back and forth with a lot of people who are basically wondering, right? And I'm going to get to the vaccines in a minute. That's why I paused the story. But people are asking me, like, there's vaccines coming. How long does it take? And honestly, what does Christmas look like this year? Because, Easter was this weird time at the beginning where a lot of people had like a normal Easter, right? I mean, a lot of people did the normal family thing. Some people didn't. But it wasn't really until we moved further in time and got towards obviously Canada Day and Independence Day in the U.S., July 1st and July 4th. That was kind of the first holiday that was weird. But, I mean, for myself, like, Canada Day is my favorite holiday of the year. I love it because it's just a random day that you get off and you get to celebrate democracy, really. And Independence Day is the same thing in the United States. But it was weird this year because I talked about it on the podcast back then. This was the first time I usually go out with friends and we go downtown and we watch the fireworks. 2 years ago, I did a huge road trip to the east coast of Canada, and we went to Halifax Harbor, where the Canadian Constitution was, sorry, not Halifax Harbor, in PEI. Oh my God, Charlottetown, where the Canadian, the initial Constitution was developed, and ultimately the British North America Act, as it's called, was signed on July 1st, and we got to see the fireworks there and everything. I love Canada Day. I go so hard because, like I said, it's just a celebration of democracy. It's a fantastic non-religious reason for a holiday, and I think we need more of that in our lives. But it really wasn't until Thanksgiving, I think. Canadian Thanksgiving has passed. American Thanksgiving, I believe, is this week or next. I should know that because Black Friday. But anyways, I'm broke. I bought a PS5. I have no money to spend on Black Friday this year. So really, Thanksgiving is the first holiday that everything is shut down. Like, there's nowhere that this pandemic hasn't fully impacted every single person, right? Even at the beginning of July, it wasn't as widespread as it is now, where you're now seeing remote communities that have been impacted by it, and people wearing masks everywhere, and people saying that no one should be wearing masks anywhere, and fighting in the streets in these random remote communities. Not literal like riots in the streets, but individuals fighting each other in the streets about these things. And it's just crazy how the pandemic has really taken over our entire lives, right? Nationwide, globally, really. They've taken over has taken over everyone's life. And Thanksgiving is the first time we're really feeling it. I know I have a young niece. She's 2 months and 2 days old today. So shout out to Scarlett, even though you can't understand what I'm saying. But it was really difficult for my family to not get together with a newborn baby and everything. And it's really the first time people are feeling it. But Christmas is going to be very, very different. And I absolutely promise you that Christmas is going to be different, because Christmas is it's the holiday, right? In the Western world, where people really feel it if they can't have their normal Christmas. It's the holiday that people get really upset if they can't be with family. And I mean, like, there's a lot of people who live alone that won't have an opportunity to go and see people on Christmas. And it's really sad. It's really unfortunate. But it's sort of a byproduct, I guess you could say, of the world, the pandemic world that we're now forced to live in. And it's going to be very difficult on people. And when the Prime Minister of Canada is saying we're going to be in for a tough winter no matter what, right? He's basically saying if the case count doesn't come down, we're going to put insane restrictions out there for Christmas, which also means that they're going to be legislating them. Actually, just this weekend, a birthday party of 100 people was broken up kind of near where I work, actually. It's about an hour south of here. And they charged the guy who organized the party a $5,000 fine, or it's up to $5,000. It's actually a summons to court, so he has to go before a justice of the peace when courts resume. And I guarantee you he's getting the full fine because there was 100 people. And they held the party inside a storage, those storage locker places. They held it in one of there. So now the owner of that storage locker place was also summoned to court, and he faces, or she, they, whatever, face up to $25,000 in fines. So they are absolutely enforcing these restrictions. Police all over the place here, and I know across the United States as well, across Canada, they are responding to these, and they're not taking them lightly, because these are the sort of restrictions that, when the Prime Minister says we're going to put severe restrictions that will ruin Christmas if these numbers don't come down, that's not a joke. And what that tells me is in Canada so far, we haven't seen federal restrictions. I bet you we're going to see for Christmas and New Year's 2 weeks of federal restrictions. I mean, I know at the beginning they were talking about they're going to block the highways and all this crazy stuff. They genuinely had those plans made. I talked about it on the podcast. I have an individual who worked on them, who had genuinely worked on plans for, if this gets bad enough, how are we going to block the flow of traffic and block the highways so that people can't get through, to allow the military to access communities where this crazy pandemic has taken over and people are dying in the streets, right? So crazy plans like that already exist. They're already there. They know how to restrict things in a matter that, I still think we have yet to see, right? As of right now, you can, in most places across the country, walk into a mall, you can walk into a grocery store, you can do pickup for food and whatnot. I bet you we're going to see that end. It's going to be delivered food to your front door only. Groceries will have to be picked up outside. You order ahead and you meet them with your order outside. Right now, you need a car to do that. I bet you they just say, whatever. Anyone can meet and you can carry your bag of groceries home, but someone who works in the grocery store is going to do your shopping for you and bring your order outside. No one goes into a store. No malls are going to be open or anything like that over Christmas. There's no way. If you think you're going to get money on Boxing Day or on Christmas and go to a mall on Boxing Day, I guarantee you that's not happening, at least not in Canada. And I do think we may see federal mandated closures, just nationwide, to say for the next 2 weeks, nothing is open. Nothing. And I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. I don't know anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong. In general times, if someone says, the Prime Minister is going to close everything for 2 weeks, nothing can open, and, take away the liberty and freedoms of the store owners and the individuals and stuff, I'd be strongly against it. But it's very different now. When we're talking about numbers like 6,000 a day in Ontario, 10,000 across the country, these sorts of numbers are exponential, and we've seen that exponential growth, right? We were only at 300 a day, at the beginning of October, so 6 weeks ago, right? We were talking about 300-400 cases a day. In 6 weeks, it's gone from, let's say, 400 cases a day to 1,200 cases a day. And they're projecting 6,000 cases a day another 4 weeks from now. It's happening. It's here, and it's a super aggressive virus taking things over. We have to try and stop it. And I'm going to get back to the story now, because really the only thing we have to look forward to is the vaccine. So I continue. This is with, again, Rachel's story over on Global News. However, the Prime Minister followed that warning. Again, that's the warning about shutdowns over Christmas, with a hopeful message that Canadians will begin to see the other side of the pandemic that changed their daily lives come springtime. He said, quote, "It's not going to be until the spring hits with the vaccines that we're really going to begin to see the other side of this. I think realistically, when we start to see vaccines arriving is the moment we're all going to be able to take a big sigh of relief." End quote. Further to that, speaking in Ottawa last week, Trudeau said he hopes to see a potential COVID-19 rollout, a vaccine rollout, rather, in early 2021. Meanwhile, early vaccine candidates from drug makers Pfizer and Moderna are showing the first signs of promising results in their trials. So, I want to talk about that because there's a lot of information being thrown out there, right? We've all seen the number, 94.5% effective is what Pfizer and BioNTech, who are working together. So Pfizer, the American pharmaceutical company, BioNTech, a European-based pharmaceutical company, are working together, as well as American pharmaceutical company Moderna, who is creating their own vaccine, and they are competing against Pfizer and BioNTech. So basically, we have seen the first round of trials come to an end, right? And the number is being thrown around that it's 95% effective, which is fantastic. However, I really want to go over what this means because it's all public information. So basically, this is the third trial. So they ended up, and I'm going to go through the results that I have the most easy access to. Moderna's results, I've read them, but they're not as talked about, so I haven't really been able to find an analysis of them, and I don't want to speak out of turn. However, Pfizer is a much larger pharmaceutical company, and a lot more people are talking about it. So Pfizer is claiming to have a 95% effective vaccine with no serious side effects that specifically protects older adults. Same results Moderna is talking about, exact same ratio. Now, for Pfizer, the results come from the final efficacy analysis of the vaccine study that was released on Wednesday, which was today. Again, this is first thing Wednesday morning when I am putting this together, so maybe things will change by the time this goes live, but yeah, I just want to make it clear. So the phase 3 study involved 43,000 volunteers, although of course you are paid to do these studies, where half received the experimental vaccine and half had received a placebo, which is normal practice. Of course, that way, if out of the 43,000 volunteers, no one gets sick, you know that the placebo is just as effective as the drug. So that's what you're trying to do, is test which is more effective, the placebo or the actual vaccine. If the actual vaccine is more effective than a placebo, which is basically a needle filled with water, it's actually literally what they are, it's salt water in a needle, then the individuals who received, or rather the placebo itself is deemed just as effective as the vaccine, and the vaccine therefore is not effective. So that's how you do these tests. Out of the 43,000 volunteers, Pfizer said on Wednesday that there had been 170 individuals who contracted coronavirus in its trial, of which 162 were in the placebo group and 8 were in the vaccine group. Of those 170, 10 people developed severe COVID-19, one of which had the vaccine, and the other 9 were placebo. Further to that, the results said that the vaccine appeared to protect 94% of adults over 65 years old, who is, of course, the at-risk population. So, what does this mean? This can mean a lot of things. So, the reason they do such a large group, 43,000 people, is because as you listening to this right now know, most of your friends and family statistically speaking, have not had coronavirus, right? It's just true. It has not reached a majority of the population yet. I'm sure you know people who have had it. I certainly do. I'm sure you know people who are either very sick or have died from it. I as well certainly do. But I am nowhere near able to say that the majority, like if you gave all my friends the vaccine and none of us got sick, you could say, well, the vaccine's 100% effective. It doesn't work like that. So we give 43,000 people a needle. That means that 21,500 people receive the vaccine, 21,500 people receive a needle filled with water. Then we wait. We wait to see how many of those people contract the virus, how many get a significant illness. So, the fact that 170 out of 43,000 people have to date contracted the virus is actually statistically low. But, that being said, we know that of those 170, 162 were people who received a needle filled with salt water. So, that's where you get the 94%. Actually, let me make sure of that, because I didn't do the math myself, but I'm assuming that's where they got it. So, 164 out of 170. It's actually 96%. Strange. Or 95.5 probably. I don't have decimal places on my calculator because it's a financial calculator. Anyways, I'm not even going to get into that. I was about to explain why I don't have decimal places in my calculator. I don't think that's relevant. Essentially, of these 170 cases of coronavirus, only 8 had received the vaccine. That gives us the overall impression that it is working. The vaccine is working. Of course, there's a chance that of the 21,500 people who received the actual vaccine, only 8 were ever exposed to the virus. It's completely possible. This is not... the problem with a vaccine is it's not like a therapeutic drug, right? If you're creating like a cure for cancer, it's very easy to find out if it works. Because if it's, a specific bone cancer that you're trying to cure, you find 1,000 people with that bone cancer, you give them your drug, and you give 500 the drug and 500 a placebo usually. And if 500 who receive the drug, 490 of them get better, and only 3 of the people who received the placebo get better, then you know it works because you picked people who specifically have that bone cancer that you're attempting to cure. The problem with a vaccine is you have no idea how many people actually got the virus. You just have to do it statistically. And you have to say, well, what are the odds that of the 21,500 people who received the vaccine, basically 8 people were exposed to the virus, whereas of the 21,500 who received the saltwater needle, the placebo, 162 people were exposed to the virus. It's unlikely. It's unlikely that many more people who received your placebo would have been exposed as opposed to those who received the vaccine. So that's how we come to that number. It's really sketchy, right? All of this is really sketchy. The only way that we ever really find out if vaccines work is when they go to mass market. So the idea of a vaccine is to be pretty sure it works, which is where we are, and to be certain that it's not going to kill people, which we also are at this point. There have been no significant side effects. So we've seen historically vaccines roll out that don't work. As long as they don't kill people, it doesn't really matter because it's not like, and I know Trudeau's and politicians in general are giving this political hype speech to the vaccines that this is going to solve all of our problems. Guys, by the way, this test for Pfizer, the vaccine was given twice across a month. You had to go in for 2 needles. There's no way that they're going to be able to launch a vaccine that you need 2 needles for it to be effective, because they literally, I have no idea how they're going to give everyone 1 needle as it is. 300 million people in the US, right? And let's say probably 120 million of them, 100 million maybe, will want this vaccine, because you can't force someone to take a vaccine, of course. So out of 100 people who want a vaccine, that's very difficult to organize and distribute and make sure it's done properly. Now you want to do that twice, 30 days apart? 200 million needles in the United States alone? There's no way. It has to be a one-shot vaccine, or else this just won't work. And I'm sure they can get it strong enough where that's the case. But further to that, I really think, or I really don't want you guys to think that you're going to line up at, a Rexall, Pharma Plus, or whatever, because that's probably where the vaccines are going to be given out, or at pharmacies, and I'm sure some doctors' offices or whatever. And we're going to get this needle jabbed in our arm. I'm going to pass out because I have a severe phobia of needles. Not a joke. But also really funny. Long story about how we found out about that. I knew I had a severe phobia of needles, but the last time I went for vaccines, I've always just been like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I absolutely hate getting needles. I don't know why. And jabbed me in the arm, and literally I'm looking at the nurse. I'm like, holy shit. Everything's going black and I'm going down. And I did. So either way, I'm going to pass out in a pharmacy whenever I end up getting this vaccine. But after I pass out and wake up, I will not be able to just remove my mask because, yay, I've been vaccinated. That's not how this is going to work. Because think about it. They're saying right now it's 95% effective. That means 5% of, let's say, the 100 million people in the US that get it will be immune, right? The vaccine will have worked. That still means that 5 million people out of the 100 million that get it, 5 million, will still be able to get the coronavirus. They will not be immunized by this vaccine. 5% of the population is a huge number. And we still need to protect the vulnerable people who maybe can't get vaccinated. There are a lot of illnesses that you can't get vaccinated by. So if I go get vaccinated, I might be in the 5% who can still get sick from it, right? And it's going to be a long time for herd immunity to set in. It's not like you just walk around, give every single person a needle and everyone's fine. That's not the way immunity works. It takes time to get everyone these needles. It's going to take months, if not years, to get everyone these needles. Polio is the only illness humans have ever vaccinated out of existence. Polio doesn't exist anymore because we vaccinated everyone for it. Every single person. That's why it only exists in laboratories now. That's it. But that took decades and decades and decades. And this virus is not as serious as polio. We are not going to be traveling the world giving every single person a needle to make sure that coronavirus goes away. It's not going to happen. It's just like it's like Ebola. It's going to be around forever. It's just going to exist in African countries because, let's be real, people don't care about them. They give vaccines to the rich countries. That way people like us are okay. And then they look at the poor countries and they're like, oh, okay, you guys, you can just deal with it. That's not even a joke. That's literally what's going to happen, and that's how it's always happened. The issue, honestly, is, in my opinion, on top of the way that the poorer countries in the world are treated with illnesses like this, the issue here is going to be that people are going to say, well, we're vaccinated. Open everything up again. I'm taking my mask off and I'm going out. And I fear that you're going to see another huge spike because people will just be like, whatever, I'm immunized. And then you're going to get people who got the vaccine and then still got sick. And then people are going to say, well, look, the vaccine doesn't work. And I guarantee you this is going to happen. I'm telling you. Save this clip. That is going to happen. There are going to be people who get vaccinated that still get sick. The vaccine is only 95% accurate. That means 5% of people still get sick. If someone comes up to you and they said, you have a 5% chance of winning $1 million, and it's going to cost $1,000 for the ticket, 5% chance. Are you going to do it? Fuck yeah, 5% are huge odds. Huge. 5% is a huge statistic. You guys throw $20 a week at the lottery, which is like 1 in 400,000, 4 million, or whatever the fuck it is. It's a crazy statistic, and people throw money at it every week. 5%? Are you kidding me? 1 in 20. 1 in 20 people this vaccine will not work for. That's a lot of people that can still get sick. And the number might get better. They might be able to improve it slightly or whatever they're allowed to do for it after the testing phase to get it a little bit more effective. They might learn something about the virus and make it a little bit more effective. But as of right now, the statistics show that 1 in 20 people will still be able to get the virus even though they're vaccinated. That's a lot of people in the world. A whole lot. So this is not going to end completely with a vaccine. I've been saying it for months. Masks aren't going anywhere. Work from home is not going anywhere. You have to get used to this normal. Christmas is going to suck. It's going to suck. I don't see what we can do to get the numbers down low enough where we don't see mandates from states. And in the U.S., the White House is not going to do like a national mandate. I mean, not only because it's a Trump White House, but just in general, it's not something that happens in the U.S. But you're going to see a lot of states do mandated closures and stuff like that. I think in Canada, you may see a mandated federal closure of sorts for the 2 weeks covering Christmas and New Year's. It's something we're going to have to get used to. It's unfortunate, but it's reality. So, as I said, when I wake up after passing out in the pharmacy and everyone's staring at me, I have to sit up and keep my mask on and keep going about my business because this is not over anytime soon. We all have to just stay the course, keep being careful, keep supporting everyone in our lives around us and whatnot, and, stay steady and stay strong. But we will get through it. But I think normal is just different. It's going to be different moving forward. And it's going to be an interesting road ahead. But you've always got me here at the Laugh to Learn podcast to entertain you every week. You've always got those around you in your lives. The internet is a fantastic place to meet people. I actually have a group of friends who, I shouldn't say a group of friends. I have one friend who has met a group of friends through like this online gaming community, and he now has people he's talking to constantly from around the world. There's like a group of 10 of them who all got together during the pandemic because they couldn't hang out with their friends anymore, and they started doing this online. And so things like that are out there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of mental health crises happening right now around us, and we need to be aware of it. Support individuals who are going through that sort of thing, because COVID, even if it's not causing these issues within people, it's definitely substantially, really, making them worse, right? It's adding to anxieties and stress, and loneliness adds to depression, and we can just keep stacking on top these issues. And we all need to be aware of that and put our time into negating the impact of those sorts of things on those around us who may be suffering. It's not hard for people to do who aren't suffering. It's not hard to reach out and ask someone how their day was. It's not hard to be kind to people. It's actually far easier to smile. And one thing about smiling is it just makes you happy. Right? Every time I'm feeling miserable, I tell myself it's because I'm not smiling, and then I feel better. And that's something that all of us should be doing right now, making ourselves feel better, making those around us feel better. Hopefully this news isn't crushing to you, but it's just the reality that we're in for much. I know that politicians are telling us right now, and we're seeing it on the news, that maybe in March or April, guys, Most of us are not getting this vaccine in March or April. It's going to be given to seniors, and it's going to be given to the sick, and it should, right? I was just asked this week, am I going to book a flu vaccine appointment? No, I'm 26 years old, and if I get the flu, I'm fine, right? I have a lot of people in my life who need that vaccine this month and next month because they can't get the flu and the coronavirus and all this other shit, right? Young people should not be rushing out to get this stuff. Young people should be taking care of the elderly and the seniors and those at risk and letting them get these vaccines and living our lives in a way that protects them by wearing masks, not going to parties, not acting like fools. Right? That's the job of young people, young parents, and whatnot in society right now, is to protect those at risk. And as strange as it sounds, because I know they're saying everyone needs to get a flu vaccine. Well, guess what? I was looking at the appointments already. You can't get an appointment here in Canada, or in Ontario at least, for a flu vaccine. I don't even know if they're distributing them yet, but they're booking appointments. And you can't get one, because they are so hard to come by. Places are closing. They're offering them for a few hours and then closing. Why would someone who is otherwise healthy, who is not taking care of someone who is not healthy, who isn't working with an at-risk population, go and get that vaccine? It should be given to those who need it. And the same thing is going to be with the coronavirus vaccine. It's not me who needs it. It's my grandmother, my grandfather, aunts and uncles who have had or currently have severe illnesses like cancer, right? Or severe autoimmune deficiencies from other illnesses. Those are the people that need to get this stuff first. And you and I being upset because, Canada Day or Independence Day next year is going to suck because we haven't had our vaccines yet, so we can't funnel beers with our friends. We're just gonna have to get over that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be that selfish in this sort of situation. So I'm not sure how they're gonna roll out the distribution of these vaccines, but I hope it's done properly and it favors the at-risk population first. But that remains to be seen. Thank you so much for tuning in this week all the way to the end. A whole lot of stuff that I didn't get to cover, but we're over 40 minutes in, so it's gotta wait for another week. Either way, I really encourage you guys to take these discussions out with your friends and family or with me over on social media. Don't forget to take a screenshot of the podcast playing on your phone. Share it to the Twitter... I already forget the name. Either way, share it to the new Twitter story. That's what we're going to call it. Share it to your Instagram story. Share it to your Facebook story. Let everyone know where you get your news and entertainment each and every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I don't know if I already said that. If you haven't yet, you can find the merch store in the link to the merch store, I should say, in the description for this podcast, as well as all my social media information. Until next time, friends, keep social distancing, keep washing those hands, keep on smiling, keep on laughing, and keep on learning.